computer. Hello, Linda. Thank
Hello,
you for
Ethel.
being.
Lovely to be on a call with you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for sharing your time and your ideas, because they're really, really interesting, and I think that people should learn about them. Um, so I'm
Thank
going
you.
to introduce you first. So here we are with Linda Cruse. She's from Bristol, but she's an international humanitarian leader, coach, speaker. She's an author and founder of the Race for Good. She has been brought up in Bristol, but now she lives everywhere. Having spent over decades living out of a suitcase with no fixed abode, Linda has captivated audiences with tales of her incredible adventures. Based on this extensive frontline experience, Linda has developed leadership programs for schools, universities, and major businesses around the world to help them develop their top talent. Her courses inspire people of all ages to step outside their comfort zone, develop new ideas, and discover their true potential. The Race for Good is just one of these programs which develops the leaders of tomorrow while challenging them to solving some of the critical issues faced by families around the world today. A completely unique program which deals with real people, solves real problems, and has real impact. Linda is a senior fellow and entrepreneur in residence at University of Canterbury, New Zealand, an associate of Ustinov College, University of Durham, UK, an affiliate member of BISHA, the Federation of British International Schools in Asia, and she has received a Lifetime Achievement Award for Redmates High School, UK, a humanitarian award for the WIFTS Foundation, USA. She's an author, and she has written Marmalade and Machine Guns, which tells her story of traveling through 16 countries, 3 continents, over 12 years with just one suitcase, in a quest to help disaster stricken communities back on their feet. Leading on the front line, which shares the leadership lessons Linda has learned from working in some of the world's most remote and often dangerous places. So, Linda, thank you very much for being here and sharing your experience.
Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure.
You know that here in Argentina we celebrate the 12th. On the 12th of October, we celebrate diversity, human race diversity. And it has to do with races, but also with culture. So I would like you to tell us your experience, because you have been visiting and working with people from different continents. So, how do you build up these bridges between people of different cultures?
Yes, I mean, I have been through my work as a global humanitarian. I have lived and worked on, visited every continent on the planet. And I've been fortunate enough even to put my foot in Antarctica. But what this has given me, and I think a little bit is because of the work I do, because I want you to imagine I am one of the first responders to natural catastrophic disasters. So this could be tsunami, earthquake, typhoon. It's something which has really shaken the country. And I go to the poorest countries on the planet. So, for example, a tsunami in Japan, I wouldn't go there to help because it's a very well-resourced country. But basically, I have worked with people from every religion, every type of environment. So that could be the deserts of the Sahara, or the snow mountains of the Himalayas, or the great oceans around Hawaii. So I have worked in every different type of environment, very, very hot temperatures, 50 degrees plus, to the very north of Greenland, which can go down to minus 70 degrees centigrade. I have been lucky enough to work with Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, so many diverse people, and the cultures of people who are really celebrate indigenous people from India, from the very north of Greenland, as I spoke to before, who live in such alignment to the planet, who don't have what we have, access to running water and electricity and the great resources of flush toilets. No, they have nothing like that. They live in huge alignment to nature. And it has been, although I go a lot to war zones and in major, very difficult, dangerous places as well, people living there. And I've had the honor to live with them for up to 2 years at a time whilst helping them. So my delight is that I've been able to become them. So although I was born in the UK, and of course I will never lose that, that's my root, I've lived and breathed what life is like to be a Hindu in India, or a Buddhist in Tibet, or a Muslim in Pakistan. And not that I am that, but I have lived with people closely enough to deeply respect their choices, their differences, their customs. And I love that part of my work. And it's given me the ultimate respect for people globally. And I believe it's so important to celebrate. And there's a lovely French phrase, which is vive la différence, which is celebrate differences, whether it's religious, whether it's environmental, cultural, because we are one beautiful world where we all have a sacred place to live. So this is the joy of my job. But I particularly love working with Indigenous people. And I particularly love going to the very remote and extreme places where most people on their journey around our beautiful earth do not go. Because I feel that there is so much wisdom from Indigenous people, whether it's the Maoris, whether it's the Indigenous Inuits who live in the very north of our world. But because they need to live in such alignment with nature, their innate wisdom is extraordinary.
And how do you make people accept you, that you are not, at the beginning when you arrive to a new community, you are a foreigner, you are different from them. So how do you manage to be accepted as one of them?
Very, very good question. Now, I always travel alone, one single woman. So that, to start with, the doors open. The trust comes more quickly. I'm not walking in as a group of 10, or I'm not walking in with a mixture. I do feel in my work, being a single woman, I get accepted very easily. But the key thing is also is that, say, for example, when I went to work after the big earthquake they had in Pakistan, I didn't go and help the people during the day in the devastated area and then go back to a 5-star hotel and have a shower and a bath. and sleep in a comfortable bed. I slept with the people in the earthquake damaged area, in the survivors camps, and I showed them by my action that I wanted to feel their pain. If they weren't able to have a meal, I wouldn't have a meal. If they didn't have access to water, I didn't have access to water. If the community were crying with grief, which many of them are there, I go to, I was with them for that. I didn't go back to a safe, sanitized area. And I think trust comes very fast when people show that level of empathy and desire to live and be as they are. Equally, whatever their custom or religion is, not that I would do what they do, but I would show huge respect for the way the women dressed. For example, in Pakistan, many of them have lots of covers over their head and the burqa or whatever. So often I would wear what the women are wearing. So I became them. I have very secure roots of who I am, but more than anything, when I'm in another person's country, I am a guest there. And I show 100% respect for the rules and regulations and what is required in that country. And that is very, very, very important. Doesn't matter that I was born in England, I'm British. If I'm working in Pakistan, I become like a Pakistani. If I work in Thailand, I become like a Thai. I will merge and immerse myself as much as possible to become them. And that is why I believe I get trusted and accepted very quickly.
This is very interesting. Do you think this is what helps people develop empathy? Do you think is that if you live the very same way, following the very same rules they follow at home, uh, in in their society, so that is the way? Do you think that is the way to develop empathy?
It is, definitely, because, and that has to go alongside, Ethel, observation and,
Mm,
and non-judgment. Because if I'm in a country and let's say, for example, I remember when I first went to India, for example, many times if there's a party, the Indian women sit at one end of the room and the Indian men sit at the other. And for the
mm,
whole party, they will be separated. That is often their custom. Now, whether I agree with that or not is besides the point. So it's non-judgment, it's observation, and it is as much as possible following their rules and regulations. And that's how I feel empathy is deepened and respect is escalated very fast. Because I
mm,
could say, oh, no, I want to go and speak to the men. I'm going to go and speak to the men. I'm a international woman and I want to go over there. That would be disrespectful in that community. And I would not do it. I wouldn't do it. I would sit with the women. And when there's an opportunity for us all to talk together, perfect. But in those situations, you observe, you respect, and you follow the flow of the energy of what they do. Yeah.
mm. Do you think this should be taught in schools, at university? Do you think this is possible? And how do you
Yes, I mean,
think
I think,
should be taught?
well, you see, for me, I mean, I believe that this is what is called now really global citizenship. And I feel, even though, like us, Ethel, I'm sat here in the UK at the moment, you're in Argentina. Yes, we've met face to face, but these days with technology, we don't have to do that. We can be global very easily. But you can never, I believe, communicate well internationally, or even Ethel, read a book that's been written by from a person from a different country, unless you start to be curious, and that's a really good word, curious, Be curious what it's like to live in the deserts of the Sahara. And I believe this is what should be taught at schools, is to really wake up people's curiosity about the world. Because what I find, which can be sad, is that if we were born in Japan or if we're born in India, we might think, oh, this is the best country in the world. We have the best setup. We have the best government. We have the best traditions. We have the best religion. Yes, you might. But equally, the whole of the world has so much richness to it and so much for us to learn, and the history and the culture and the customs and the religion. This is what makes our world so beautiful. And actually, if we ever, ever, ever want world peace, and this is what one of the layers to Race for Good for me is world peace. Because when I play the Race for Good with students from all over the world, this is my humanitarian project, I invite deliberately, intentionally, I invite students from strict Christian countries, strict Islamic countries, Buddhist countries, Hindu countries, because I want the students to get to know each other and to ask each other questions and to understand that we have most of our values are exactly the same. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about respect, it's about equality, diversity. But we need people to be curious enough to talk to each other and get that level of empathy and understanding.
All right. So do you think that it should be introduced as a subject, for example? So you say that it is possible to build up or to develop empathy between different cultures, and that should be taught at schools, for example. Um, and that's nice because technology helps a lot. Um, do you think should be a subject,
I
or
do. I
maybe
think global
uh,
citizenship, yeah,
mm,
I do. I think it should be a subject. I think it should be, because it will just introduce us to the depth of richness of our world. Because if we only focus on where we were born and the great poets or literature or environment we work in and live in, that is like 1% of what the world is. You know, what do they say? I mean, there's a lovely phrase about the world is like a book, and if you don't travel, you've only read one chapter.
all right.
Now, but with technology, we don't physically have to travel. We don't have to travel. We can do this globally like we are today, and it's costing us nothing. And this is what is so exciting, that there are no barriers and boundaries anymore with our technology. But I feel that we become a full human being. I mean, I would love, you know, a passport which is a global passport, because we are global citizens. We are all part of the 8 billion people that live on the planet. And this is what we should be proud of, that we are one of the incredible privileged people that have been given life on this planet. And so I think the more that we have the opportunity to be taken into the different countries and lives and cultures and religions, and the richer we become, and to be taught at school and university, 100%, yes.
Yes, maybe if we develop empathy between different cultures, maybe we'll be in charge of taking care of our planet and looking at our planet from a different perspective. Do you think there is a relationship between developing empathy and climate change and taking care of the planet?
100%. Because I have been lucky enough recently, and this is how we met, Ethel, to be doing some real deep understanding as to what it's like in Antarctica and how climate change is affecting the continent as well as the countries around it, like your country, Argentina. Also, I've done a lot of work in the north, in the Arctic, especially in the very north of Greenland, but all around the North Pole. So I've been lucky enough to be with the people. I'm not a scientist, but I am a people person. So I've been able to meet people living in the poles. Now, I also meet people who are not living in the poles. Like I work a lot in Japan. And the Japanese students and business people that I work with, they want to understand how climate change is affecting people, how it's affecting the lives of the people as our world. Pardon?
They won't understand.
They want to.
They want to. They want to understand. Right.
They want to deeply understand. They want to, because most countries living in the middle part of our world are not being affected much at all yet. Yes, some of the countries around the Himalayas, yes, you know, they're having a lot of flooding and landslides because 30% of the world's water is held in the third pole, which is the Himalayas. Also very poor countries, so they're being affected by landslides and flooding, and their houses are going and their crops are being destroyed. But many people who live in safe, secure worlds, whether it's London, New York, Tokyo, nothing is happening there yet. Yes, the weather pattern is changing a bit, but our day-to-day lives are okay. So this does not drive us to take action for climate change. It doesn't. But a lot of it as well, Ethel, is that the lack of awareness of what is happening, because schools' curriculums are already full, climate change is talked about, but not in an emotional way, maybe in a scientific way. What is actually happening with the sea ice getting much thinner? But when you personalize it and humanize it and say, people in the North Pole now are falling through the ice and children are dying in the Inuit community because of climate change. And if Japanese students, you could turn your heated toilet seat off in Tokyo, just think of the energy you would save and the help you would give the boys and girls living in the north of Greenland. Small change, big impact. But what my role has been, Ethel, is to share the awareness of how humans are being affected who are living in the North and South Pole. And this is driving students to say, I will take action because my friends living in the poles are being affected and I don't want them to die. I want to help them to live where they are. But definitely we need to have so much more awareness because there is very little. And that has to come really through education, through schools and universities. And I think I know a lot from my Japanese students who I'm talking to most days. They are hungry. They're desperate to understand. They want to know more and more. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Thank you for this interview. Thank you for your explanations and for sharing your experience. Really richful. Thank you very much.
It's my great pleasure, and I'm excited for the next one, Ethel.